we are live. Welcome to my video. This is going to be my first spoiler-free review and then spoiler-ridden thoughts section on the 2025 movie Control Freak. So yeah, one more movie for Women's History Month. Now, to be clear, I am definitely going to do other movies that are focused on women, for the rest of the year. It's just not going to be like every movie I do in a month. That I only do on Women's History Month. Yeah, this is another of the first they made a bite-sized Halloween episode, and then they got to make a feature version. Like with, let's see, Clock, Matriarch. I think those are the only ones I've done. Yeah, loved all three of these, so I hope to find more. And let's see, right, to get the obvious out of the way, as a cis man, women's issues. Yeah, let's go through them. So I am a cis man, native born, and I'm white. And if I had a religion, I guess it would be Christianity. This is, I'm Danish. And white. A lot of Christians that fit that description. So I am coming into this from the outside, and I am going to try very hard to base everything I say about women, immigrants, Vietnamese culture, very much on what I've heard members of those minorities say. I have no intention of talking over anyone. I make these videos in part so that, frankly, I've encountered, not encouraged, a lot of fellow members of the majority who refuse to listen to anyone who's not a member of the majority. And in most ways, I am a member of the majority. So, yeah, I'm trying to get, my fellow cishet white dudes to actually consider other perspectives than our own. Now, I think that does lead nicely into... Right, I'm going to be linking in the description box, let's see, I believe it's pronounced Saji Sharma. He just made a phenomenal video. In general, his channel's amazing. Let's see, How to Radicalize Your Immigrant Parent, a Thorough Guide. And yeah, it is a ironic title. He's not actually saying you should turn your immigrant parent, conservative. But yeah, it touches upon some of the things that this movie does as well. And yeah, some of the themes here are mental illness, control, and cultural heritage. Kelly Marie Tran does phenomenal here. I can hardly recognize any trait of Rose Tico, the only other role I've seen her play. I gotta see her in more stuff. Like, the moment I saw her play Rose Tico, I was like, I gotta see her in more. I do think she does well as Rose Tico. I think the issues there tended to stem from the writing. Now, she nails the fake smile that these self-help gurus have. I have a ton of admiration for anyone who's faced significant hatred online and then goes on to play a character that a lot of people will hate. And there is reason to hate the character she plays here. There is no reason to hate Kelly Marie Tran. She's awesome. And no one deserves the kind of harassment that she got, regardless of anything. Like, don't get me wrong, if someone has actually done something terrible... Right, I should be clear. I don't know absolutely everything about Kelly Marie Tran. I'm saying I've never heard of a good reason to hate her. And certainly her work in Last Jedi was not. Yeah. But yeah. No one deserves that kind of harassment. If you've done something bad, I do think there should be consequences, but not that kind of harassment. I'm not saying that The Last Jedi was perfect. It had some issues. I really don't think she was one of them, especially on her performance. At most... I can understand why some people didn't like the writing of her character. That's not something Kelly Marie Tran did. Now, her character in this is Valerie Nguyen. She's one of those characters where when they're male, they're referred to as complex, but a lot of people look at the female versions of them and say, oh, they're unlikable. I really hope one day to live to see when we stop pretending like this isn't just a misogynistic double standard. Women are just as capable as men are of being complicated, and we should accept women who are messy and make mistakes. This is part of why I love shows like Jessica Jones and movies like Birds of Prey or The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Valerie is absolutely not a role model. Honestly, if you're looking at horror movie protagonists for role model behavior, you really should have taken that left at Albuquerque. And let's see, I have to wonder if the way Valerie is what some people thought Rose Tico was, just because of like misogyny and racism. Now, for some of this, the horror doesn't really rise above the level of PG-13. I don't think it's a problem for the movie. It is something you may want to know before sitting down to watch it so you're not frustrated and let down. It does eventually get into R-rated territory. I just realized I forgot to mention. Yeah, and once again, IMDb is not telling me what the age rating is. But I would definitely say I'd be shocked if it wasn't R-rated or the equivalent. Yeah, let's see. Right, as others have pointed out, it is a movie that has a stronger second half than first half. So if you're finding yourself disappointed very early on, try to make it to the halfway point and see if you don't start to be more interested. But personally, I do think the entire movie is good, but it becomes great around the halfway point, the last chunk of it, like, fuck me. Right, did I mention that? The movie's R-rated, so will this video be. Anyway. Yeah, and some of the horror comes from these recurring images of Valerie scratching her head, and these bugs that just seem to keep showing up, even as, like, she'll spray against it and do various things, and just, yeah. Not to mention the audio design. Scaring an audience through our ears requires a delicate balance. On the one hand, anything we don't see but we do hear doesn't necessarily have to work as hard to be scary as something visual, which is not to say that it's easy. It's not. When we hear something but don't see it, it triggers a primal fear. Our lizard brain starts screaming, we gotta figure out what that thing is and if it's dangerous or not. It used to keep us alive when we lived in nature. But at the same time, you also have to be careful with the audio design being a major factor. If you rely too heavily on the same kinds of sounds, it can get tedious. And I understand some people felt it did here, and some apparently felt that it was more annoying than scary. I understand, and certainly, you know, there are some noises that are repeated, such as the scratching noise and the noise that kind of implies that it's very, very itchy, you know. And obviously these are important because it is part of the movie, is this thing of, yeah, it itches so bad and she just has to scratch it, even though, you know, she realizes maybe it's not the best idea, you know. Yeah, some people felt it was more irritating than scary. I understand where they're coming from. I don't want to invalidate that perspective. I do disagree. I thought that there is a tension there. It's not scary the way that, like, Michael Myers is scary. But it is scary in the way that Rosemary's Baby, you know, yeah, Rosemary in Rosemary's Baby keeps having her consent violated, keeps having people second guess her decision, the way that she's being gaslighted, you know. These are not spoilers. This is, you know, some of what I've just described happens very, very early in that movie. Besides which, if you haven't watched that, okay, I appreciate if you don't want to, you know, support Roman Polanski. Fuck that guy. Fuck him. But that is still a really amazing movie. I think sometimes we really gotta separate the art from the artist. But yeah, it is that sort of thing. It's this nagging, there's something, and it's just, maybe you can't completely put words on it, and I don't know, maybe they're right. Maybe there isn't really anything there. It's that kind of fear, and anxiety, and it's scary in that way. And yeah, if that's not something you find that scary, the movie's not going to work for you. And I wish it's the kind of thing I think you should have to put that in your review. If the reason, if you know, if you don't find this sort of thing scary in general. Anyway, and let's see. Yeah. So back to the analysis of using sound to scare people. If you vary the sounds too much, then you're not building something consistent. And yeah, this movie fares rather well. It does a great job exploring how tradition and culture can both drive you forward and also kind of, yeah, make you second guess yourself, because like the way that Valerie is living her life, like she feels, you know, it's very much this immigrant thing. You know, her parents came to America. She grew up in American culture. She feels like she's making it. This is the American dream. She's successful. People know her name. She draws big crowds as a self-help guru, but her family don't feel like this. You know, among other things, her father is I want to say Buddhist monk. I hope I have that right. And yeah, you know, he's like, all this attachment to earthly belongings is a bad thing, and you have to stop this, you know. So yeah, and it's set up immediately. Valerie has some issue with her family and her past. I'm not going to detail what it is in the spoiler-free section. I do think they do a really good job with it. I was immediately like, what happened there? There's something. They keep dancing around it, like on eggshells with tippy toes, and I gotta know what it is. And I was not disappointed. It was genuinely very emotionally engaging and compelling. The movie does utilize certain horror movie tropes and cliches, and it builds very nicely with certain repeated images, such as the shot from behind of Valerie in her car scratching the back of her head aggressively. And there's certain characters she talks to multiple times. We gradually understand more of the relationship she shares with them. They did a wonderful job with that. Like, this is the kind of thing where a lesser movie would have just had, like, you know, voiceover of like, this person in my life, every single time that I need something, I go to them. No, we just see, you know, these things, and there's not any of that kind of awkward, like, you know, I don't know about this, because as we both know, you know, no, it feels organic. I don't think there was a single line of dialogue where I was like, would they really be saying that in that situation? And let's see. Yeah, this is also one of those things where we really see that the right way to explore these, you know, culturally significant, you know, it's by having people who actually have a connection to the, you know, the cultures that they, you know, yeah. And this was written and directed by, you know, let's see. I thought I had it right here, but I will find it real quick so that... Does he not have a Wikipedia page at all? Wow. Someone's got to get on that. He deserves it. This was amazing. Anyway, well, it says that Shall No, the writer and director, splits his time between New York, Los Angeles, and Ho Chi Minh City. So, yeah. You know, and yeah, the Vietnamese culture is a major part of this. They bring up some really significant things. Yeah. There's some really incredible cinematography. Really, all the cinematography is great. There's this, I'll just briefly say there's several shots where it's like from inside the garbage can, for example, and such, and we'll see a character from above, go up to it and throw something in, and I think it's the repetition that especially makes it work. And there is this one shot that holds for a very long time with minimal camera movement, and it is so unbelievably effective. It made me think of like some of the best cinematographers. It felt Hitchcockian, like I think I'll try to, let's see if I can real quick write the let's see. Yeah, I'll just let's see, the movie is called, yeah, there we go. Because I refuse to give away exactly what I'm thinking of there, because that would give too much away of this movie. Yeah, just absolutely amazing. I believe that is everything. Yeah. Acting all round is quite good. Yeah, it's one of these wonderful recent horror movies where sometimes something that would have been very drawn out in the past will move kind of fast, but without it meaning that it doesn't have an impact on the viewer. Yeah, I give this 8 bugs that just keep coming back somehow out of 10. And that brings us to the spoiler section. Just gonna note when that starts. There we go. So, the moment we see Valerie throw out the letter, we know there's some significance there. And she only yes, so in case it's not already clear, from here on out I'm spoiling the entire movie. Everything, including the ending. Do not keep watching if you haven't already watched the movie, unless you're 100% certain you're not going to. Yeah, so the letter. She only reluctantly reconnects with her past because her future might depend on it. I quite appreciate how at first Crystal insists that they'll find some other solution other than the papers, please. And not long after that, not very many scenes after, she calls and says, yeah, how is progress on that original solution? She doesn't admit that means that she, Crystal, was wrong about that. I get the sense that people around Valerie worry about contradicting her. There's probably a lot of things where they'll say one thing to Valerie and then later something else happens that proves that Valerie was technically correct, the very best kind of correct, but they didn't really want to deal with her. And it's such a telling, Crystal takes off the post-it note, and she's like, isn't this a little insensitive? And, yeah, ends up in Valerie's hand. She's like, no, it stays. She puts it on, and then we see it says, stop whining, start doing. Yeah, that... Val, gonna have to disagree with you on that one. That's kind of insensitive. I've really gotten into these recent horror and other genre movies where a Google search will be edited in a dynamic way. I will never look at it the same way the next time I see a 90s or early 2000s movie where they just show the Google results and don't really do anything interesting with it. Sometimes Hollywood really does not know what to do with technology. Great gradual escalation with the bugs, the itching that she, yeah, at first it's just like kind of an itch, and she'll stop not long after, and she keeps a little later she's itching and itching. She starts itching with that instrument thing. There's an actual hole, it's bleeding, she has to cover it. The doctor is understandably not okay with her waiting 11 months to check something that could be serious. And returning to the bugs, at first we just see a few, and she discovers the hole, which she later covers up. Then she has that horrifying nightmare where she vomits a bunch of them, like, fuck. And the Sanshi you know, that early on is just like pawing at her is genuinely effective. I really appreciated early on I wasn't sure they were really going to go past that. This, you know, in the review I mentioned like PG-13. I thought it was just going to do the early 2000s teen oriented horror movie PG-13 thing where it's like, ooh, spooky, it's standing around. Oh, it's not doing anything more because that would get us an R rating. But nope, that's not the case here. Was that like an intentional subversion of expectation that like lulls into his false sense of security? Like, it's just going to be one of these. It's PG-13. Love the bit where first it's just a few, you know, it's creepy the moment that there's one set of hands, but, you know, then several, and then, you know, Sanshi joins in. I think the progressive elements work well. They point out, you know, a white cis man wouldn't get this kind of anti-immigrant sentiment, though Valerie does say that wasn't what she meant. And the young woman who's a major fan because her mom was helped. She has no idea how to pronounce Valerie's last name, which I hear is an issue that a lot of immigrants have to do, you know, not just first generation have to deal with. And this woman insists on a selfie when Valerie isn't doing one of those public appearances where that is where it's acceptable behavior to go up and ask. Like, for real, if you see a celebrity in public, please consider if maybe they would like to be left alone. You know, don't, like, did Chapel Roan teach you nothing? Why did people start hating her again? Was it genuinely just because she wasn't super polished in like at least one video, and she pointed out that there were issues with the Democrats as well as the Republicans? I don't know. I watched a bunch of videos that analyzed the backlash against her, and I just genuinely don't see, I don't think any of them did either, any genuinely good reason to go against her. Like, yeah. Let's see. Some people apparently think that that Robbie is like too weak. There definitely is a non-traditional dynamic between the two. In some ways, she's more masculine, he's more feminine. Perhaps the most distinct example being the early scene where, when talking about their struggles with becoming pregnant, he's the one thinking about babies and baby names. She's just thinking about her job. She is his boss in more ways than one. I read it as her feeling a need to assert some independence, and it, you know, it is addressed by the end of the movie. You know, I definitely get the sense that they're going to be more equal after the end of the movie. And yeah, you know, for a while they seem happy. I did quite appreciate the thing, you know, they're talking about becoming pregnant, and then we see her taking and hiding these birth control pills. Great design, mostly good effects on the Sanshi. It is genuinely very effective concept. You know, that's where all those bugs that she keeps finding and killing are coming from. Or, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's because it's going after her. So we realize each time she saw one of those bugs, that was the Sanshi creeping up on her until it starts appearing in its full form. And when it does early on, it's in dreams and such. It's really only by the end that we really fully see it, you know, in the real world. Like, even Robbie sees it. It's clearly not just in her head. And that was also super creepy, as it is like a baby form, and that's the younger version of her. And let's see. What was the other thing I wanted to say about that? Right, I really think they did a fantastic job showing it enough that it feels like a real physical, like by the end, it's a real physical presence. It's a serious threat to her, but not overexposing it. I never got used to looking at it the way that, you know, if you watch enough of the Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street movies, yeah, you kind of do become adjusted to the appearance of the killer in those. Right. Valerie needs a favor from her aunt, so she buys her a massage chair, insists that she keep it despite her objections. Valerie does not take no for an answer in pretty much any part of her life. And I appreciate that she approaches different people in different ways, basically going off what she believes is most likely to get her the result that she wants. And it's important to underline, this is not something that all women do. It's something that a lot of control freaks do, and regardless of your gender, you can be a control freak. I would be remiss if I did not admit sometimes I can be a control freak. I try to not be when it comes to other people. I try to just be it when it's stuff that only affects myself. But in the past, I've definitely done it to other people, and I deeply regret it and apologize. The way she gradually uncovers the mystery is quite well done. At first, her father just says no, but Valerie finds the key, goes to the place with the stashed items. I forget what y'all call those in English. And at first, she cannot get into the drawer. That's only later in the movie when she's been pushed to the point where, you know, if all you have is a hammer, even a lock looks like a nail. Valerie is more comfortable with the idea that people in her family are drugging her through drinks than the truth about the Sanchi, which at that point in the movie, her father has already explained partially, you know. But yeah, just the denial and the paranoia, you know. And I do appreciate, you know, she's not used to the supernatural, so she's looking for, you know, she's trying to Occam's razor this motherfucker. But nevertheless, you know, both her father and her aunt have that little, you know, regard for her, that they would actually, like, make her hallucinate, you know. But she's that divorced from, like, for a lot of this movie, she genuinely does not believe that anybody else loves her, and it's in part because she doesn't love herself, you know. Very, very nicely done. And that is the thing, like, people who don't love themselves can end up very paranoid about, because, like, if you don't love yourself enough to feel that you also deserve other people's love, then when other people show you love, you're trying to figure out, what's the angle here? Why are they doing it? It can't be that they love me. That's not possible. So there's something. What are they trying to do? Should I avoid them? Is this dangerous for me? You know, kind of thing. Again, lizard brain bullshit. Holy crap, when she was a child, she witnessed her own mother drown after failing to drown her. No wonder she's a control freak. This is what her lizard brain is screaming at her all the time will happen if she doesn't assert control of her life. And it's, yeah, you know, complex, not unlikable. You know, I mean, if you don't like her, that's fine. You know, I was personally sufficiently fascinated. Like, obviously, did not approve of a number of the things she did, the way she treats other people, which again is a self-hating thing. It's not because she's a woman. But yeah, I wanted to know what happened to her. And once I found out, yeah, I was like, I mean, of course this is how she's behaving like that. Yeah, I'm just repeating myself. I'm trying not to do that. At first, Robbie thinks Valerie is going to criticize him for drinking, but, it's, you know, yeah, being annoyed about that, he stops being annoyed. I gotta proofread the voice typing. Sometimes it doesn't work. He stops being annoyed about that the moment he realizes she's initiating sex. And I also quite appreciate, yeah, it's again where she's in some ways more masculine. She's the one initiating. Some of the time she's on top. You know, this doesn't have to mean anything, and certainly nothing bad. You know, that if that's how you like for it to be in your relationship, as long as it's consensual between both or however many people, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And let's see, yeah, and you know, she scratches him, or rather the Sanchi does. She apologizes, and, you know, at first he's like, you know, there's no, you know, he says she's not going to be able to make it better as she's about to engage in oral, but then admits, okay, it's making it better when she starts. Very accurate for a lot of cishet men. I'm not speaking from experience. I'm not saying there's something wrong with, you know, that kind of MLM. Let's see, I'd like to think, I personally, if I were, if my partner just did something that hurt me, I wouldn't just, immediately accept the apology from oral. There would have to be, just, I try not to hold a grudge. I'm getting into the weeds here. I'm going to move on. And I do really appreciate, while he forgives her for the scratching because of the oral, the moment he realizes how much she is bleeding from what? Now that's a real head scratcher. He does focus on that and insists she has to do something about that. And, she lies and says, oh, the doctor said it was fine. Which, like, carry the one. No, the math isn't mathing. In no conceivable way was that what he said. But she's that much of a control freak. And look how casually, again, not because she's a woman, because of self-hatred and control freak behavior, she lies so casually. She's like, no, the doctor said it was fine. No, the doctor said 11 months ago you should have come to me with this immediately. I'm not going to just prescribe you a drug. You have to come in as soon as possible. We have to do in person. We can't do this over the phone. And let's see. Yeah, and, he masturbates in the shower. He's understandably sexually frustrated now. Throwing out the tissue, he discovers the birth control. And I appreciate this does temporarily ruin the relationship. He wants children. If she really doesn't, he would rather she just be honest with him about that. So it is really no wonder that at that realization, Robbie rabbits. He's there at work, but purely because he's going to do his job there. That's all. He's not there to get back with her. And let's see. Yeah, that's another place where the relationship is, he's being the more feminine coded of the two. I quite like him calling her on using her guru speech with him. Clearly, she doesn't want to have an actual conversation. Yes, he's using hyperbole. It's his way of expressing how important this is to him. And it is, like, they do need to have a conversation about how controlling she is. And yeah, later on, she's like, mea culpa, The nightmare is very effective with her attempting to prevent the head scratching. I don't think the dream within a dream trope was necessary, but it's fine. Also, the bit with her making a smoothie, the way it's filmed and edited makes it come across more sinister. And that was also very kind of, let's see, is that a PG-13? It's an unfortunate horror movie trope in a lot of cases. I think it was fine here. I think it maybe should have focused a little bit more on the fact that she's, like, exhausted. The dream didn't, the dream kept her from getting enough rest kind of thing. The sinister nature, yeah. Let's see. I don't know, it felt like maybe a studio note or something to add in more, yeah. It doesn't hurt the movie that much. I do wish they had enough faith in the movie that they made to not include it. Genuinely devastating watching a control freak lose so much control of herself in front of so many people at the appearance. When we see that she literally did scratch a hole in the back of her head, fuck me. And, there's, like, this white stuff. Like, my immediate thought was, is that fucking thing... Is there an egg sac in there? Are we gonna get, like, a, xenomorph-like kind of thing? But, yeah. And, of course, she jams a finger in there. I appreciate they really milk the build-up to that, because we know exactly what's about to happen. And some part of us really want to get it over with. But that's not really what horror is for, They just, like, there's at least a full second between us seeing the hole and, she's got the finger, and we know there's no way that we're going to move on before she's jammed her finger in there. I really appreciate Robbie taking care of her as she's recovering. He would be just the absolute worst if he didn't. I spent the last 20 minutes of this movie genuinely terrified that Valerie would kill herself and or Robbie. Like, when there's the thing about, you know, he doesn't trust you, you know, he's gonna lock you up, and that's just, yeah, I was thinking, oh my, fuck me, she's actually gonna just, yeah. And she drugs Robbie, just as she had the paranoid idea that she had been drugged by her family members. And it is that thing of, like, every accusation is a confession. And, yeah. And the poor guy, he really likes the food that she prepared to. And that is one thing that I do know for sure about Vietnamese culture. My God, the food is delicious. Like, if you've never had any, you are missing out. In general, a lot of, like, East Asian food culture, just amazing. I'm so glad, like, there's bad things about globalization. I do appreciate, like, I can literally just go online and order. You know, I eat East Asian inspired cooking, not, like, made in a proper East Asian restaurant. A couple of times a month, probably. Yeah. It's just so fucking good. Anyway, let's see. Yeah, and, you know, if Robbie, sitting there eating, gets really thirsty, he could try the wine. And Robbie actually realizes he's been drugged before collapsing because he knows her that well. Ouch. Like, fuck me. I'm sorry. I'm fortunate that I've never been in a situation where, like, I was eating something and there was any part of my brain that was like, did they drug me? You know, like, if I was eating something and I felt like dizzy, my mind would not even go to, have I been drugged? You know, just like, yeah. And, you know, because, like, it's one thing when he wakes up, you know, tied up, obviously he's gonna know, okay, she did this. You know, this wasn't just, you know, I don't know, food allergy, extreme reaction or something, but no, even as he's falling, he's like, this is fucked. And, you know, yeah, he wakes up and she's, like, practically on top of him. She kisses him and is like, I love you. Hi, babe. And, you know, she's like, I'm gonna deal with this. I just need a few days. You know, and he's like, hey, which I'm pretty sure that he, like, you know, in disbelief, repeated the words a few days. But there is perhaps some percentage chance that what he actually said was, are you gay? I don't think that really makes sense to... It's a very weird time for him to ask that, and I don't even know what would make him think that, but some percentage chance. Not saying it's very high. So, from what I understand, the Sanshi is largely accurate to the mythology, and yeah, this is one of the reasons why we gotta have more diverse voices in cinema. The Sanshi freaked me out more than a lot of Western, you know, ideas of scary things in a while now. Genuinely tense there at the end when she has to fight it, and it fucking heals after she cuts off one of its hands. And the, you know, great thematic element that, you know, she tries to drown herself in addition to the Sanshi. Because, keep in mind, she could have held it underwater. We know that she's used to water. She could have just held it underwater. And then she chooses to love herself, which is what she's been preaching to others this whole time, but she wasn't practicing it herself. A lot of people are like that. Sometimes they need help from others. Yeah, you know, like... If you take anything away from this video, please love yourself. If there is something that you should genuinely change, try to change that. But do try to love yourself. And yeah, she almost drowns the way that her mother attempted so that she would be spared all this. And let's see, yeah, so for obvious reasons I couldn't say the following in the spoiler-free review. This has amazing underwater photography. Like, this, fuck me, yeah, the way that it's just this void, like, I don't know, the Abyss, let's see, yeah, I don't watch a lot of these movies that have, like, a lot of underwater photography. Other examples I can think of are spoilers, so yeah, I think I'll just stick with it. But just, yeah, it's right up there in the level of just, yeah, the black void, the way it feels, because that's something that I've heard from people who have almost drowned or drowned but been brought back to life. It felt like there was just no escape. It felt all encompassing. So to have this black void, because like you see it and it's like, I mean, it's a pool. There's no way it's as deep as it looks there. But yeah, that's the idea. It's the perception that makes it like that. And yeah, you know, they're under the water. She sees her father, her mother, herself as younger. Just wonderfully done. And you know, earlier on we saw, you know, she can hold her breath for a while. She does survive. You know, she doesn't even need resuscitation after she comes back up. And yeah, her, you know, at first we're not 100% clear on why is she practicing how long she can hold her breath. Like, is she meeting up with Tom Cruise later? Anyway, yeah, you know, that's another way she's trying to control. She's trying to, because deep inside her is this anxiety about, you know, her mother drowned right in front of her. And, I mean, she repressed the memory, but when she was a kid, she probably understood, my mom is trying to kill me. You know, kids understand more than we give them credit for. But yeah, she repressed that memory, and that's part of why she feels unloved, because she didn't realize her mother thought it was mercy. She thought her mother hated her so much. You know, there's that saying, I put you into this world, I can take you back out. And yeah, it's just beautifully done. The way that this whole thing built to, because like, at the end of the day, this entire movie was about her, like, having to overcome this trauma and the, you know, yeah, the death of her mother, the water and the Sanchi, and yeah, the idea that, you know, the Vietnam War brought a Sanchi, you know, into our world. Yeah, I think it is extremely important to process, because like, that's another thing. This is a movie that actually acknowledges, yeah, the Vietnam War, it happened to the Vietnamese people too. It wasn't just Americans who were hurt by that, you know. And yeah, like, the idea of this, like, supernatural evil, I think it's a very logical place for our minds to go, and a good way to process the, because it is genuinely horrifying, you know. Like, that's, yeah, if you at some point find yourself thinking, this is a great day, how can I ruin it? Read up on the Vietnam War. And the Saw was such a visceral gut punch. Like Robbie, we knew she might do something horrible with the noises. You know, like, he hears that and he's like, she is not just making a spice rack down there. And the way she has to psych herself up to it, that was the shot I mentioned in the review, which, it reminded me of that one shot in Frenzy where we're helpless. We can't do a fucking thing, and it's just so devastating, you know. Just yeah, I'm fairly confident if you've watched Frenzy, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you shouldn't. I'll just say, fuck. I actually, yeah, I can't believe. I used to know that line by heart because it's such an effective, chilling line, but I'm actually gonna have to real quick look it up, but I know that it is there. So let's see, is it really, there we go, yeah. I don't know if you know it, but you're my type of woman. You know, that shot. You know, yeah, the shot I mentioned in the review, where we can see her and the saw in this medium shot, and after a while the camera starts pushing in, just not very fast either, and it just lasts so long until eventually she does do it. Like, I don't know, 10, 20 seconds or something. It's very unusual for a shot in a movie today to last that long. There are some who do it, whatever. There's a lot of movies that don't, you know, and just, yeah. And this whole time, throughout the entire shot, we're screaming at her not to. She even set up the thing so she can burn the flesh and stop the bleeding right after. Genuinely clever of her to lure the Sanshi, because its whole thing is breaking down her will. So when it seems like it's succeeded, it doesn't realize that she's tricking it. You know, it's, yeah, it got too confident, too arrogant. Loved the creepy version of Val that we get on the laptop screen. I'm glad we got to see her twice. It would have felt like too little IMO if we had only seen it that first time. Like, the moment that she throws away the laptop, I was like, oh, I kind of want a little bit more of that, but I'm glad that it was saved for after. And yeah, perfect when she stares directly at Val, says, "Thank God no one can see what you're thinking," and she says things like, "No wonder no one loves you." These are the kinds of things that people with depression and anxiety do say to themselves, people who don't love themselves. And yeah, there at the end, Val and Robbie have a baby together, break the cycle. This one will not have to go through all this alone, like Val felt that she did. And the ending sees her finally being vulnerable and honest with him, which was all he was asking from her. Again, it's a case where usually the genders are reversed on this, but it was never about her being perfect. He just wanted her to open up. He saw the real her under there, but yeah, that's part of why he gets so frustrated when she guru speaks at him, when he's being honest and she tries to shut it down. She tries to control the situation like control freaks do. Yeah, absolutely amazing. It's gonna stay with me for a long time. And the next time that I have an itch, I am not gonna wait 11 fucking months until... Fuck me.